that's a little bit of what people say about infrastructure, because that it kind of gives you a pass not to do continuous improvement on the infrastructure level, and I just don't believe it.
Back then, you could buy OPC-UA converters, S7 converters, edge devices from reputable brands in Europe and in the US.
Yeah.
But the tools were at some time inferior, and there was so much good tools already out there. So talking open source,
but you also probably the price was okay, right?
The price was never the issue, actually.
I also think, I mean, I share the same sentiment on, those converters and all these, but on top of all of that, not only they're inferior and complex and honestly in times bad software, they're also so expensive and like this premium, like for example, I can't stand it. You need like an embedded computer, which is just a computer. But if the word industrial is before the PC, suddenly the price is like 20% or 30% higher, and it's nuts, Sometimes you need IP65, but come on,
Yeah, it's just random certifications, stamp onto it, and then price double, triple. Yeah. And the problem also, especially on the software side, was we needed to move fast because projects, McKinsey, high pressure.
Yeah.
And then now we need to buy something and try to buy something in an industrial context. Weeks, months before you have the product in hand.
Yeah.
And then try to find good documentation because you have a problem. Oh, now you need to text somebody, he comes back to you 3 business days later and sends you a random PDF, but on open source. So now it shows Node-RED, for example, for connectivity back then. You have YouTube videos, you have like communities actively discussing, and also some random guy in Brazil, for example, outside of all business hours, inside theirs, is just there to help. It's like so more traction on those tools, so better experience, and there was like no second thought about going closed source on the commodity tools.
Yeah. So obviously we share the same point of view and I believe passion towards like what the open source movement needs to do for technology in general and certainly for operations and manufacturing. But I think I'm kind of curious about your perspective, but from where I'm sitting with Tulip and, we're thinking about this from the lens of the continuous improvement person on the line, operational excellence, but also the control engineer and the IT OT architect. There's many titles in sort of where we roam. And you go there, often they know about the open source tools, but if you try and compare how they're used and adopted within operations manufacturing compared to any other engineering field, that makes hardware, software, what have you, there's no comparison. It's like 0.1% to like 99%, I think, or I don't know. So what's your take on that? Why is that, and how are we changing it?
I think it's just on a speed thingy. So I think OT, so if you compare how to choose and design systems in either IT or OT, in IT is all about user experience, moving fast, scalable data infrastructure. You need to handle millions of users or trillions of data points per second, whatever. And OT is actually only about having something that works and is reliable and you can just install and let it run for 20 years. So there is no need for moving fast. So that said, in IT, open source is the standard.
Is it actually true nowadays?
In the infrastructure perspective, I would add. Yeah.
I think, but yeah, I think generally speaking, sure, when you build up a value stream that needs to run 24/7 for the next 20 years, so to speak, though I don't actually know a lot of them. I saw some statistic, I forget the source, that the mean time of a value stream is like 5 to 7 years or something like that. Of course, there's some industries that go for longer, but because there's reconfiguration, new product, blah blah blah, and so on. And I don't know. I feel like that's a little bit of what people say about infrastructure, because that it kind of gives you a pass not to do continuous improvement on the infrastructure level, and I just don't believe it, because technology cycles, even on automation setups, they're still affected. I mean,
I think they're moving, but if you just look at so I think application is moving faster. So MES is now being microservice-based architectures away from monolithic. But if you look at, for example, controllers or like SCADA systems, DCS systems, everything is still based on Windows XP.